Call this Thursday, May 28th, 2026 working session into effect.
Perfect.
And you said we're not going to do the pledge?
I don't think we have to, but we can if everybody would like to.
I'm sorry?
You're the chair, you get to decide.
We don't have
We're going to skip the pledge in the interest of time.
Yep.
We'll do roll call. We have John Callahan, John Kiernan, Danielle Jouin, and myself, Devin Hager, and virtually we have Bob Cooney. As our first board discussion item, we have a discussion on Sedgley Farms, starting with long-term planning overview, and specifically overview/summary of grants received to date and status of master planning process. I will move it over to you, Lori.
Yes. So before we get into some of the later discussion items, I just thought it would be a good opportunity to give a reminder of the process that we followed, how we got here, the grants that we've been awarded, just to kind of give a recap for the public and some of the newer board members who weren't here through the acquisition process. So we did finalize the acquisition of Sedgley back in November of 2024 for a total purchase price of about $16.9 million. And to pay for the property, we issued $10 million. It was slightly under $10 million when all was said and done, but it was $10 million in tax-exempt bonds, and the balance of the purchase price was paid from cash out of the open space fund. That means we have an annual debt service payment of, it's about $650,000 a year. It's paid in 2 installments, one in June, one in December. The first one is interest only. The second one is principal and interest. And that is paid entirely out of the open space fund. We did have tenants initially on the property because there are 3 structures, 3 houses that are located on the property. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the discussion. When we took possession of the property, we did have tenants that were there that we had to carry out their leases, and they remained on the property until March of 2025. We had a temporary property manager during that time to manage the leases and take care of all of the things that go into being a landlord. So since March of 2025, the properties have been vacant. We winterized, we secured all the doors and windows, and we've got security measures out on the property, and that's what we do on a regular basis, but they are vacant at this time. So that was kind of high level overview. As far as grants that we've been awarded, since we took possession of the property, we've been awarded a $500,000 acquisition award from DCNR. So that's retroactive towards the acquisition cost that we already put out. We were then also awarded $500,000 from Chester County, also retroactively towards the acquisition costs. So a total of $1 million back towards the acquisition of the property. Now we've not received that money yet, and there are a couple of reasons for that, but one being for the Chester County grant, in order for us to request payment of that money, we have to execute a declaration of public trust on the property. So that means we need to say what we're going to do with the property and where we're, generally speaking, where we're going to do it. Now, we purchased the property for the purposes of open space in perpetuity. That's what we did when we used open space funds to make the acquisition and when we issued those grants. We did leave ourselves some flexibility that we'll get into at a later discussion, but before we can request payment of that money from the county, we have to execute that declaration of public trust. And the property has to be open to the public. So we have to meet some of those goals. Now, we have a couple of years to do that. They'll grant us an extension. They know we're going through planning process. So, I mean, would we rather have our money sooner? Yes, but there's no penalty. There's no issue with us not taking the money now. We keep in contact with them, and they know that we are working on master planning. But those are decisions that will need to happen before we can get that money. For DCNR, those same restrictions do not apply, but we have a whole multi-page checklist of things that we have to do that staff are working on, and then we can request that money. So we should, in theory, we should be able to receive at least half of that money this calendar year, perhaps the full amount. But we have to get through the laundry list of documents and things that they want to see and review before we can do that.
Quick question, when that money comes in, does it go back to open space fund?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So other grants that we have on the property, we've been awarded $60,000 for master planning. That's from DCED. So that's 50% of the total cost of the master planning process. And then on April 30th, we submitted our application, well, Simone Collins submitted it on our behalf to DCNR for the balance of $60,000, and that's still pending. So hopefully.
Quick question on that, Lori.
Get that award.
And
The cost we're showing is,
estimated total master planning cost, like, is that pretty, how confident are we that we'll land around that number?
That's a pretty
confident. It's
standard
standard.
amount.
Okay.
Yeah. Was that, did Bob have?
yeah, I had the same question. We're good. Thanks, Devin.
It's very low. Keep talking, Bob, please, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you okay. I have the same question as Devin, where I was going to ask, where did we get the 120?
Might have disabled it because that becomes, I probably disabled it because then it becomes.
You could always throw a microphone up against the speaker that he has there if you want.
We can hear you now.
Okay, good deal.
Not hear your question though.
So my question is similar to what Devin asked, is where did we get the 120 number? Is that something that Simone Collins gave us, or how did we get that number?
Yes, that's the estimate that they gave us. That's based on, they do these master plans all the time, so that was their recommendation of the amount to seek.
Okay.
Okay. So that's it as far as grants. So that covers all that we've been awarded and the remaining pending. The next thing I had was just an update or kind of a reminder on what we think the potential status is of the master plan, if you want me to go through that. Okay. So assuming that we've already been successful with receiving half of the funding, assuming we're successful in our pending grant, we should find out if we get that this fall. That would mean funds would be available to us to use, estimating probably around the first quarter of 2027. As we've discussed before, we'll need to do an RFP to hire a landscape architect to actually do the master plan. We hired Simone Collins for the pre-master planning and to submit the grant for us, but we will go through a formal RFP process and interview potential landscape architects or other consultants to do the master planning process itself. And that will very likely be a requirement of those grants for us to do that. So by the time go ahead.
When would we want to bring them in? Like, and this might be putting the cart in front of the horse here, but if we think about when we want to make a decision about them, when would we want to start bringing them in for? Like, do we formally kick off the RFP? Yeah, exactly. Like, do we need to formally start the RFP process, or is it more unofficial where we can kind of bring them in and just talk to them?
I wouldn't. We really can't do it until we execute the grant awards,
Okay.
the grant contracts, because they'll want to make sure. A lot of times the requirements on those are that all of that happens we give you your grant award and then they want to see the process for the RFP. So we should wait until we know if we get that other grant before we do that. So we can do that pretty quickly.
So to speak.
I mean, we can start working on the RFP documents and decide what we want to see in there. We can certainly do that. We just can't, we shouldn't formally advertise them or do any of the interviews until after we
Formally started.
formalize the grant.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
This is, when the RFP for this type of a project is done, is it the lowest? Is it like you put the RFP out, you get your submissions, and it's the lowest bidder? Or is there some qualitative, like, do we have qualitative, influence over who we select?
Yes, we can establish the reviewing criteria for that. And part of and some of that, I'll say this with the caveat that it will ultimately depend on what the grant awardees want to see. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they'll have different stipulations in the grant agreements. But when we're doing an RFP for a professional service, technically RFPs, because it's a professional service, it's not technically required by law, but it will be required because of the grant funding, if that makes sense. So we do have a little more flexibility. You won't be beholden like you would be in another competitive bid to going with the lowest bidder, but we'll have to have preset evaluation criteria in order to justify why we may or may not be going with the lowest bidder. So all of that is probably not likely to start until first quarter of 2027, assuming all goes to plan. questions on that?
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Is that short term next?
Yep, so I think we can move right into the BioBlitz presentation.
All right. As Lori suggested, let's move right into the BioBlitz presentation.
Microphone? Hello, is this thing on? Hi, my name is John Lasowski, and 42-year resident of Schuylkill Township. Great to be here in front of you guys. I, back in November, put a proposal together. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I'm a Pennsylvania Master Naturalist since 2019, and I've been interested in the iNaturalist application throughout that time frame. So I don't know if you know anything about it, but I'm going to show you a little bit about it here today. I did a proposal to the EAC that having been to the open visit day to Sedgley and the presentations that were done, I thought this would be a perfect time to do a BioBlitz on the Sedgley property before we go in there and start building things or putting, trails in or whatever's going to be done. So it sounded to me from the presentation that Mr. Simone, I think it was, gave at the school that that would be as much as 4 to 5 years out. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to go in there before there's a lot of intervention and do a BioBlitz. And a BioBlitz is basically an inventory of the biodiversity, what's living there now, both plants, animals, insects, whatever. So I put that proposal together in November, and I've been back to the EAC. Some of the EAC colleagues are here. I've been back to them several times as we try to refine this and make it something that would be presentable to you all. So you have my slides up there. Okay, that was my cover page, and you can see I updated it as late as yesterday. So if you go to the next slide, please. So this is going to build, so I'll tell you when to hit enter. Basically, these are the reasons why we would want to do a BioBlitz there. It's to document plant, animal, fungal, insect, etc., biodiversity on the newly acquired parcel to guide wise science-based stewardship of that parcel. And the first one is it creates an essential baseline because we can watch the changes in the species and the diversity that we see over time, but it'd be nice to do a baseline before interventions. Next one, it identifies threats early. So it's easier to detect invasive plants, pest species, and any other emerging ecological problems. We know there, from my visit, I know there are a lot of invasives on the property. So things like that. It reveals the ecologically important features. Next, it engages the community if desired, because BioBlitzes are typically a community event. So it's something that you could get people enthused about the property and the use of the property just by beginning to get them involved in BioBlitzes. That's not in our immediate proposition here today, but it's just something food for thought. Next, it's cost effective and scientifically robust. Basically, the app and the use of the app is free. And the data that goes into the application from observers working in the property, once it reaches a certain level of quality in their terminology, it becomes available to another facility called the GBIF, Global Biodiversity Information System. I forget what the F is, but the purpose of that is it's then available for high quality data available for scientific use. It strengthens grant applications. Grantors often like to see that we've done something to assess the quality and quantity of the types of organisms that live in the preserve. Next, it integrates with global conservation efforts. There are several million iNaturalist users globally, and I think there's something like 350 million. I have a chart on that, but there's something like 350 million observations from across the world in iNaturalist. So it's one of the most used and most effective mechanisms for capturing biodiversity in any particular area. And finally, it demonstrates transparency and accountability. It's a publicly accessible record. Anyone can join iNaturalist. Anyone can look at the iNaturalist data, see the types of species we're finding in a particular geographical area and that sort of thing. And the bottom line, hit enter again, please. One more enter. I made the bottom line bigger so you could actually read it. iNaturalist biodiversity inventory is simple, free, community building if desired, and scientifically valuable. and it's the perfect first step to developing a long-term management plan for our new natural preserve. Okay, so go to the next slide, please. What is iNaturalist? This is just one slide to tell you what it is. Go ahead, next. It's an online social network. So the application, which runs on both mobile devices and on the internet, it's a social network besides an artificial intelligence engine that helps assess exactly what you've observed. There's also a big community out there of experts on different subjects that routinely look at, for example, if you're a birder, you can go in and just look at the birds and see what people have identified in a particular area and either agree with that or correct or improve an observation's identification. Okay, next. It began in 2008 as a master's project for a couple of students. I don't know if they ever made any money on it, but they certainly launched a global phenomenon. Next. It can be accessed via the website or mobile apps, as I mentioned, phone and Android. Next. It's based on crowdsourcing of observations and identifications. So you may have heard the term citizen science. It's considered like the primary citizen science tool because anybody can use it and contribute to the buildup of a body of scientific data, basically. And its observations recorded in iNat provide valuable data. They're used by a lot of different organizations, researchers at universities, organizations like DCNR that are attempting to manage particular areas. And next, it's available in 57 languages. If you don't want to work in English, you could pick another language. And finally, it is an independent 501c3 nonprofit organization. Next. Okay, so just to give you an idea what it looks like, this is a picture of me opening my app on my iPhone. Next. So I see something in the wild, right? I see a plant. I take a picture of it with that little camera button on the bottom there, request an identification, and that's when their artificial intelligence engine kicks in and does the equivalent of facial recognition, like in an airport, you know, they're scanning faces looking for criminals or whatever. In this case, they're scanning and comparing it against their database of similar types of organisms, and they come back, the app comes back with an ID and a confidence interval. So in this case, I took a picture of that garden yellow rocket, and I hit enter, and it came back with a suggestion at 99.3 something % likelihood that that's what the organism is. So I hit the little check mark that I agree. If I don't agree, I could look at the other suggestions and say maybe something on here is a better ID. But in this case, I was pretty confident at 99% that it was the right thing. Okay, next. And then you upload the observation. Once you agree with their identification, you hit the upload button and it goes up into the big cloud database in the sky. Okay? So that's kind of what it looks like to use. It's not very difficult, and I could give a primer to someone, a brand new user. They register, they get the app on their phone, and in 10 minutes I could have them making observations and including them into the database. Okay, next. So when I started talking with the EAC, Charlie there provided me this so-called KML file for Sedgley, which is keystone or keyhole markup language. It's a specialized language that shows the geographic coordinates of a particular parcel. So these typically exist for states and in countries, etc. But there was none for Sedgley Farm. So I created this one with the file from Charlie. And it basically is that polygon there. The file contains all the turns and corners. So it enables you to plot that property and store that as a location in iNaturalist. Okay, next. So I basically, since Charlie gave me the files, I did it for all 3 preserves in Schuylkill Township. So you can't read the writing, but Valley Park is on there and Pickering Preserve is also on there. And since those are just generally available open sites, that's where we did our kind of test case where we had a dry run rehearsal for doing a BioBlitz on one of these properties. We did it at Valley Park. Okay, next. I also created an umbrella project in iNaturalist, which brings together all 3. So I called it Schuylkill Township, Pennsylvania Biodiversity. So those 3 bars at the bottom are the 3 respective preserves. And you can see the species count that have been observed at each of those locations thus far. Valley Park, of course, since we did that BioBlitz dry run there, has the most observations. and Sedgley doesn't have many at all because I think myself and two other people who probably have properties bordering on Sedgley made observations there. Yes.
Can you break out the observations based on time so that you can see the evolution of the biodiversity over
Exactly.
time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
In fact, I did that with the brown marmorated stink bug. I did time slices of the United States, and the brown marmorated stink bug is this is a rat hole. I'm sorry, but just to tell you what I did time slices of the introduction date moving forward, and I plotted them on the map. INAT does that for you, and I superimposed the maps so you could see the build, and you could see the little red dots as the brown marmorated stink bug moved across the country. It's really pretty cool. Okay, next. So each project also has a homepage like this, which shows you the current stats. This was Sedgley. There's only 27 observations in there because I was only on the property for like an hour. And 23 species, 14 identifiers. Those are the people in the broader iNaturalist community that have added or corrected identifications that I made or that I and the artificial intelligence engine made. And there were a total of 4 observers. And it shows you the map of the location as well as some examples of what's been observed there. Okay, next. You could also zoom in. So this is directly from iNaturalist. It's showing the Sedgley Preserve or Sedgley area, and you could zoom in. It gets a little blurry just like Google Earth, but you could see exactly where the observations were made. So my proposition was to do a biodiversity inventory, not to plot the location of every invasive plant on the premises. But I guess if you had enough person power, you could, do that, and it would be within the geographic bounds of the GPS that you're using. So I think typical GPS is yards, so it's never going to give you exact locations. Yes.
But if you have people out there with their smartphones and they're logging those instances where they find them, it would give you an approximate location.
Yeah, the iPhone, typically iPhones and Androids have what's called metadata, which is the data about the picture you took. So if you have location services on your mobile device, it logs down to like 5 or 6 or 8 digits past the decimal point of the global positioning signal, basically. So you have to turn location services on your phone to do this effectively, but then it tracks every observation and where it was made. And you could either upload immediately when you do it or take the observation, or you could save those all up and get back to your Wi-Fi at home and upload them where you have faster service or, Wi-Fi service. Am I doing okay, John? Okay, next. Okay, so this is also on the Sedgley Farm, Schuylkill Township homepage. There's also some stats. So this shows you the number of observations. There's a little, I don't like these types of round graphs, but that's how they choose to display it. And it shows the 22 species broken down by the various taxa. So insects, birds, fish, etc. Okay, next. And this is just an example of some of my observations while I was out there. I really like to observe insects, so I have a little macro lens I snap on my iPhone, and I could get real nice close-ups of insects. So you see that unusual spider there, sad ground crab spider. So that was my good find for the day. Okay, next. And for any one of those observations, you could also click on it and get a detailed view, which goes into much more detail, including who agreed with you or disagreed with you on the identification. If you want to communicate, there's an built-in messaging system, kind of like text messaging within the application. So you could say to the person that agreed with you, thank you, or you could see someone disagreed with you, you could argue with them. So that's all available. And to the right, you can see that green bar. In order for something to become research grade, which is the highest quality grade in iNaturalist, 2/3 of the people that have voiced an opinion on the identification have to agree on what it is. So that's how it becomes research grade, and then it's periodically exported to this other facility that the scientists use. Okay, next. So this is a general kind of method and approach for doing a BioBlitz. You establish some kind of working group. You could do it individually, but typically there's a group involved to plan and execute a BioBlitz. And you create the iNaturalist project, which is the boundary map, which we did with that KML file from Charlie, and set up a dedicated collection project for automatic inclusion of observations. The cool thing about these collection projects in iNaturalist is anyone making an iNaturalist observation within those geographical boundaries, unless they take a step to specifically make it private, it's automatically included in the project. So people don't have to think about, should I post this to the Schuylkill Township project? It's going to be there. So the first two are marked in green and boxed because those two things are basically done. I didn't see any harm in doing those kind of pre-steps. And it's certainly, allowable. Anyone can make an iNaturalist project in any area they want, including like your backyard or whatever. The next would be to decide on how you're going to conduct field surveys, and there are multiple approaches. There are community BioBlitz events, which could be a one-day event or a month-long event. And basically, you're saying within this time frame in this geographical area, I want to get as many observations as I can. Then you could also do, which is advocated seasonal surveys and targeted surveys. Seasonal would be, you'd see different organisms at different times of the year. In midsummer, you're going to see a lot of insects, which is a good time for me. In the winter, you might see animal tracks. And by the way, tracks and scat are allowable observations. So it's kind of funny, but you could, you know what I mean. And then the next step is data verification. You leverage iNaturalist's own AI engine to get your ID initially. And then you can either wait for people that are interested in that taxon to, also jump in. And by the way, birders respond very quickly. I posted a robin a couple hours ago that was in my driveway, and within 10 minutes, I had 2 or 3 people agreeing with me. So that was an easy one, right? A robin. But you could get seasonal surveys and targeted surveys. Data verification, and then finally analysis and reporting. You get a lot of analysis automatically on the homepage. It shows you stats about how many observations, how many species were found, who did it, who identified them, and a map showing you where all the dots are, show you where all those observations were made. But you can also download the data. So you can write a query similar to, I don't know if you know about SQL, but it's an SQL-like query. And you can interrogate the database and dump that data to Excel, where you can manipulate it, as I do, to my heart's content. I do charts and graphs of our Pennsylvania Master Naturalist annual BioBlitz and present it at the annual meeting. So you can do pivot tables and pivot charts based on the data that you download. And that includes probably 150 to 200 individual data fields, like when it was observed, exactly where it was observed, what the taxonomic structure is, all the way from family, order, all the way up the taxonomic tree. Okay, next slide. I put together a kind of a superset BioBlitz plan, and this is just something to show you that there are steps that you would take in planning any BioBlitz. There's kind of pre-event, then there's during the event, and then there's post-event. So if you go to the next slide. So there you can see during the event and post-event. And those things can include things like having a sign-in table. If you're doing a BioBlitz and you have 15 people invited, you ask them to show up at the sign-in table and sign in and sign their volunteer waiver form or whatever, and then they're allowed onto the BioBlitz, onto the preserve that you're BioBlitzing. And then post-event are things like follow-up, share the information, share whatever reporting you want to make public. I could put things on, for example, the EAC Facebook page might be interested in a report on what types of species were found there, etc. Okay, next slide. I think the next 2 slides are just excerpts from the email that Karen, you sent the email, right? And basically it said specifically what we're asking for. So I excerpted here all of the specific asks, if you will. So first was requesting approval to conduct an iNaturalist BioBlitz on the Sedgley property. And we came up with a specific date and time frame. It's actually a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because we hope to enlist at least a handful of kind of subject matter experts. I have an expert botanist Link Davis, who has agreed, at least on paper, to participate. And I have a tree expert who's a professor at Villanova who's helped with PMN, Pennsylvania Master Naturalist tree walks in the past, and she's also interested in participating. And the time frame is like 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. because we would also like to do some moth lighting, which is basically setting up a sheet with some UV lights on it in the dark and see what types of nocturnal insects you collect. Participants will be limited to EAC and y'all members, BOS members, approximately 15, the non-EAC members of the Sedgley Working Group, of whom there are 3, and a small number up to 10 of volunteer subject matter experts. And the ask would be to go onto the property and make observations and have them upload into the Sedgley BioBlitz project. Let's see. All participants will receive instructions on all the aspects of the BioBlitz, as well as on iNaturalist if they need it. Participants will be on site at various hours during the period. Nobody's going to be there from Friday through Sunday. It's more like, you show up for your 2-hour slot. Let's see. A sign-in informing the public of the invite-only event will be displayed at the entrance of the road and parking areas. Notify the police, of course. And parking would be either on the Sedgley small parking area or on the Hilliard property at 920 Valley Forge Road. And if we have to, we could do carpooling by prior engagement only. So we would say, yeah, you 5 people we're going to pick up at the Township building and take on the property, and like a carpool. Next slide. So, and then based on a successful outcome of all this, I guess as next steps, we would look to maybe do this again periodically through the course, at least through the period when it's not widely open to the public, but we would do additional BioBlitzes, perhaps seasonally over time, based on the successful outcome of the first one. Let's see. And we could do them with more detailed focus, and results will be reported to the Board of Supervisors following the event. And they can also be viewed online, or I could present an online view, take you through exactly what was collected, what types of invasives are being discovered, approximate locations, things like that. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, and questions?
Terrific. I've got a couple if nobody else does. Great job. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, excellent job. This is really exciting. I know one of the questions I had is the Audubon Society years ago had been asking for ways to get on the reservoir to do bird counts. And would they be somebody that you could pull in as an expert to work with you on some of the birding and identification and counts and habitat, that sort of thing?
Oh, absolutely. I know Patty Worth at the Audubon organization, and she's led bird walks for us at the Audubon Center in Mill Grove and at Welkenweir, where I'm on the board, Green Valleys Watershed Association. So I'm sure she would be enthusiastic about participating in this. But we also have some township resident experts, Tom Heisey and Mary Ellen, are avid birders. They go around the country looking for birds, and I'm not a big birder. I'm more of an insect guy and a microorganism guy. So I always appreciate a real birder there, because they could look at a little dot in the sky. To me, it looks like a dot in the sky, and they say, "Oh no, that's a left-handed monkey wrench bird." And I'm like, "Okay."
Great. Well, I'm happy to hear that they can find access that they wanted. So the second thing is that this is definitely a gem. It's a one-of-a-kind property. I feel very fortunate that I've spent a ton of time on that property growing up as a kid, farming, hunting, trapping, fishing, living on the reservoir, and then lived on that property for years, and then had about a 15-year run of being the deer management guy that got to know the property very well through that period as well. And I have seen things that you wouldn't believe with it just, there was a period where the fish, the frogs, the reservoir wasn't as healthy as it is now. And I've watched one thing after another come back, the osprey, the eagles, everybody knows there's a couple nests down there, but also there's a part there are pieces of that property where there are mink that beaver are now back, and there's actually one area that has quite a few flying squirrels, and they're bizarre to watch. Right as it gets dark, they'll sometimes bounce off you if you're up on a tree stand, and then bounce into another tree, and it's really a treasure. So if there's an opening where one of us on the board could be a volunteer, I would love to
Absolutely.
play a part, because I do know a few things about it and where some of these little gems are buried
Now, I
that
think
might be
the,
of help.
I think the reservoir itself is off limits, as I understand it, because of Aqua's ownership. So I remember when I first moved here, I used to canoe on the reservoir and bass fish out there. And I can only imagine how great the fishing must be now that it's been locked down for quite a number of years. Yeah, see if you could convince Aqua to let us do a bio inventory of the fisheries there.
So I wanted to ask you that question, but John had his, was going to ask you a question first, so I don't want to cut in front of him.
So I'll leave you with this, that I do think we should get Aqua, because some of that area where the flying squirrels and the mink are and the beaver are actually on their land. So is there a way that we can get through to them to get the inclusion on their property? So I think that it sort of ties into the two together as one.
No, it was just simply to thank you, and it's great that you came in, and really what a wonderful presentation. And I was unfamiliar with this technology and this app, but what a wonderful thing to engage, experts plus, community members. So,
Yeah.
really exciting. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
So my question is, so I used to work for Aqua, and as you may know, they are in the process of being merged with American Water. They're undergoing a merger, so there's going to be new ownership of the reservoir. In the past, they do have actually environmentalists that check on the quality of the aquifer. I could certainly get in contact with some of my contacts there and see whether, I can't promise anything, but it may be possible to have a limited access for the purposes of doing an
That would be
environmental
terrific,
inventory.
I think, yeah.
Or at least I could connect you with the people who are in charge right now, because maybe they have data that could be useful for you. So
Well, we
I
don't
would
want
be-
secondhand data. We want to do the observations now under
yeah.
our, jurisdiction, so to speak.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
but I'm no promises, but I would be happy to make,
Yes, please
a
do.
few phone calls. And so the other question I had is, I'm just thinking of this as like from my science background a million years ago. We want to, right now, that property is significantly impacted. It has been largely monoculture, conventionally farmed. And so we definitely want to get a baseline to see how we can improve it over time. Do you need a critical mass of people? So just as a hypothetical, if you go in there and you have 50 people for a bio blitz and you get some sort of baseline, and then you have another session scheduled, you get 2 people, right? 2 people are not going to find the same variety of flora and fauna as the 50. So do you need to control for the number of observers and the length of the observation for each of these sessions to make it truly a comparison of points in time and diversity?
Yeah, I think you've identified the ideal situation, but we're not being that, scientifically rigorous, I guess you would say, in doing a biodiversity inventory. What species have we seen on these days in this prescribed area? If you wanted to be really scientific about it, you would say, break it into specific quadrants and have certain people assigned to each quadrant, et cetera. But you can get a pretty good inventory of what is currently living there with our suggested approach.
Okay.
Not necessarily how it changes over time, so-called phenology, also, our species changing over time, the makeup of the species in there changing over time. You would have to be pretty rigorous to do that scientifically.
Okay. To the extent that that could be accomplished, I would definitely advocate for it, because one of the things we've been discussing is potential deer. I know this is ahead on the agenda, potential deer management, and it would be, I think, helpful to understand how the approaches we take for deer management could impact the biodiversity over time. I'm not saying that this is a deal breaker for me, but I would certainly love to see a more rigorous approach, if it's possible.
Okay, well, I guess we could take that under
You can
investigation.
take it under advisement, yeah.
This is a workshop, right?
There's no voting happening today.
And are you done with me, or do you have any other questions? Oh, I have to stay.
I don't want to I just want to kind of mention something. Ann Lincoln, EAC, and also Schuylkill member. I think this initial one is really just like I don't think we know exactly how well this is going to go. Okay. I think we're going to try to do our best. I mean, that's why we're only limiting it to, just a handful of people. We'll see how this goes. And then from there, we can say, okay, you know what? We need a lot more people. And then we can kind of figure out the logistics of getting all of those people on and how often we need to do this and to kind of really start seeing, because it's going to take, 4 or 5 years, like you said, to actually get the real professionals out here that can kind of manage that. So I do I do want to, as an EAC member, try to look at this more rigorously and kind of start looking at all the data that we're going to gather and then plan for the next one. John did a great job with the valley. We've identified some invasives that we might want to start tackling next there. There's some areas of the Japanese barberry that we weren't aware of that we want to start maybe possibly tackling next. But there's a lot to do, and this one BioBlitz is not. And even if we do this for the next year, it's not going to solve the problem. But it's going to take a lot of time. But that's where we're at, I think.
Thank you. And don't take this as a criticism at all. I think this is fantastic.
I have thick skin anyway. Any other questions for me?
So nitty gritty question. One of the second to last slides, when you're talking about the post-event stuff, there's a line about cleaning up loaner equipment. Was that a throwaway line, or is that something like you specifically have something in mind you want to rent out or loan out to people during it?
Equipment like butterfly net.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing mechanical.
No. I was just curious what I couldn't even contrive of any, but yeah, butterfly net. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Maybe magnifying glasses, or I have a couple of the macro lenses that snap on phones, things like that.
Oh, fair. Okay, cool. Well, sounds like we're all in agreement on the project, so easy, cool. So next steps would be logistics then. So I know, as discussed here.
Well, does this have to, so just to be clear, does this need to be put on the agenda for the next
Yes.
public meeting and we would vote on it?
Correct.
Okay. So
Yeah, but still want to iron them out.
that's fine. The only thing I don't like about this is that I'm going to be out of the country when this is happening, or I would be 100% there every day.
All the more
next
reason.
one.
Oh, when it's happening, yes. So you had mentioned whether or not it could be a truly public event versus having SMEs come and join you. So for the SME variant,
Matter experts. Not everybody knows what a SME
I
is.
know. I'm sorry, my work lingo is slipping out. Having some subject matter experts join you. Can you give me a rough idea of EAC board plus who would be the public, rough count of public people you would invite in a closed situation?
Yeah, I don't have a particular number in mind. I know 2 resident experts in the area that have helped with things in the past, those I mentioned. But of course, Patty Worth or someone from Audubon would be a great addition. I'd love to find a mammologist. There's an excellent one. He's a member of the ranger staff down at Ridley that, believe me, he is a mammal expert. And if there are really things like mink and whatnot on there, it would be great to have someone like that. But the beauty of iNaturalist is it's for everyone. So to make those observations and get them in the system, you don't necessarily need subject matter experts. Where you need subject matter experts is in the identification stage.
Sure.
So if we identified 4 or 5, if we were lucky enough to get photos of mammals like, flying squirrels or whatever, and actually get them into iNaturalist, they then become visible to people that we can specifically ask, because based on an initial observation, it will then, in the details slide, say frequent identifiers of this organism are, and it lists names that you could then ping within the messaging system of iNaturalist and say, hey, could you drop everything for me and look at this and see if you agree with the identification. So the identification process is really where you need the subject matter experts.
Sure.
But since there are some that I know that are at least have spoken that they would be willing to participate, I would enlist them, because many trees look similar to me, whereas a tree expert says, no, that's the left-handed monkey wrench tree, and this is the right-handed monkey
Common
wrench tree.
moniker.
It's just,
But-
just one quick question, if you don't mind. Where do you live? You mentioned you're right on the Sedgley. Whereabouts?
No, I'm not in Sedgley. I'm in Schuylkill Township. I'm North Forge Manor Road.
Okay,
Drive,
North Forge.
which is right
Yeah,
next
I was
to,
just
the
curious
G
where
Lodge.
you live.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I've been there for, in June, it'll be 42 years, so.
Just in terms of the number of people, I think in your proposal, we're looking at a total of max number 5, 20, 30, 33. So,
Yeah.
That's what I kind of wanted to speak on.
And that,
I'm
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm Karen Hilliard, EAC member. And also a Pennsylvania Master Naturalist. I wanted to add that this was kind of like our beginning. Like if you guys wanted us to have 100 people, we can like get volunteers from Pennsylvania Master Naturalists or stuff. If you want more people, we were thinking you guys would want it smaller for logistical reasons. But if you're interested in doing it more frequently, or like we can organize all that, we just thought we would start small, proof of concept kind of situation, like we did the Valley Park one. And while we were there, people were just walking their dog, and I walked up to them and I'm like, this is what, if you're curious why we're here, this is what we're doing. And I gave them like a 1-minute rundown on iNaturalist and said, if you want to join us, feel free to take some pictures, make some observations. And then they walked around and they were all very excited about it, came back to me afterwards and they're like, that was really fun. We got this many pictures and blah, blah, blah. Like, so it can be really great to engage the public, but we thought because it's an off limits property and that kind of situation, that's why we're keeping it very small to begin with. When you guys want, we can do whatever you guys want, as many people as you want. And we have contacts with lots of local experts, so. Okay.
I do think it ties in, the resounding commentary from the public for what we do on the property was like nature-based use. And this, I mean, I'm fascinated by this and I like nature, but I'm not.
Yeah, my feedback to that would be, I would defer to you. Like, I don't, like, unless there's, liability concerns or anything, but, I would put our faith in EAC to you guys scope it. I think this is amazing. So.
Yeah, I mean, I do think maybe the first time we, proof of concept, agree, but maybe it can be, where I'm thinking is like, we can go out with this is like, there's probably gonna be more demand than supply for the first one, but we could say like, this is not a one and done thing, there's gonna be multiple instances of this. So, that way we've kind of a positive message if we have to turn away a certain number of people, because I don't know, something like that I think might be a good balance. So.
Yeah, any other questions? You can contact me via email, or I could come back, do a live presentation of what you can see in iNaturalist if you'd be interested in that. Am I done?
Thank
I
you.
have one question,
Oh, yeah.
actually. Is there going to be, so Karen, in your report here, you did say, is there going to be an actual report given to the board of the results? Like,
Yeah, that was my
could we see an
proposal,
example
because
of-
I could do more reporting with the downloads than come available on the online system. So, yeah, once you get the data dumped into Excel, for example, you can chart and graph anything you want, like time of day, species, taxon, invasive versus, there are like 4 categories of establishment method, which would include introduced anthropomorphically, as they say, by man, or is it endemic, which is it's always been here and only here. That typically applies just to like islands and things where there's no place that bat lives except on that island. But there are some categories that you could look at the data in different ways.
Okay, great. So do you have one from the Valley Park one that you,
I don't have one with me, but I could send you one.
oh, that'd be great.
Sure.
He came to one of the EAC meetings after our Valley Park one and broke it all down for us. But yeah, we didn't know how much you guys wanted to see today, so we're trying to keep it as short as possible.
Oh, yeah. No, I would love to, if you could share it, I would love to see it.
Okay, well, I'm happy that you're interested in the topic. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
thank you.
Great. So we will put that on a future business meeting.
Yeah.
Or we can put it on the June meeting.
Great.
Sounds great.
All right, next up, overview of current maintenance plan. Township manager, Lori.
Yes. So, same deal as the little spiel I gave earlier. I just thought, high level, on the heels of that, just to kind of cover what we are doing with maintenance on the property presently. We do have a mowing plan. We developed it with Natural Lands when we acquired the property. It's basic. We were like, what's bare minimum that we should be doing to make sure that we're maintaining this property in a proper way, knowing that down the line we'll want to do
Something.
higher level. Yes, correct. So we mow it regularly. We mow around the residences to keep them more well manicured. And then we do still have an agreement with a farmer that comes out and does meadow maintenance, not farming, does meadow maintenance once a year. And we don't pay anything for that. So provided that he can make hay, which he has assured me that he can generally always do. So, and that agreement's actually going to be coming up on a future agenda for renewal, I think, at the June meeting.
Are we paying for that service?
Nope.
So is he paying us for that service?
Nope.
Okay, it's just,
Cost neutral.
okay.
There is a cost associated if for some reason it's not viable for hay and we're just basically paying him to mow it, which we probably wouldn't do. But no, it doesn't cost us anything.
But we have an agreement with him as
Yep.
far as like liability and stuff like that.
Yes, correct. Yep. So that's basically it for maintenance on the property itself. We also assess the trees. We've taken dead trees down, some by choice and some that
Shows.
yes, some chose for us. Yeah. That's a big maintenance issue out there. Actually, I mean there are a ton of trees and a lot of them are not in great condition, but it's a very expensive endeavor. Beyond that, we also do regular checks to the houses. We inspect them for vandalism. Like I said, they're winterized and they're locked up, closed off. So our staff do check them. The police are back there frequently. The roads department is back there frequently to make sure that there's no damage happening. We have had issues with vandalism. It's a big, wide open, vacant property, so it's not really surprising, but luckily nothing to date that's been hugely catastrophic. So, but we are, in light of that, looking at doing some upgrades to security that I'm not going to get into the details on in a public meeting, but. So that's the gist of what we've been doing there. We've had to repair some broken windows. We installed a sump pump in the manor house to address some water issues. We've had minor other miscellaneous fixes to the property out there, but generally speaking, we've been kind of hands off and just keeping an eye on them to make sure that they're not deteriorating. So going forward, one of the ideas that I had, and I spoke to Bob Wise about this, because they are all on our historic registry. So before we get too far into, eventually we're going to be having discussions on what do we want to do with those houses. So I've asked Bob Wise, and although he is technically retired, he might still want to be the one who does this, but
He's doing a terrible job
He's not-
at being retired.
I know.
Like an awful job.
I did tell him that. I don't know yet if it will be him or he will have his prior firm do the work for us, although something tells me he will still be involved in it. So I had a chat with him a week or two ago and kind of explained the whole thing and what we're looking at. We're in like kind of between a rock and a hard place right now because we don't yet know, because his first question to me was, well, what's the future use of the buildings going to be? And I was like, well, we don't know that yet. We haven't quite gotten there. So what we talked through, and he suggested, and I do think once we get the proposal, we'll be able to look at it a bit more, but it sounds like a great idea to me. The proposal that he is working on is to give a preliminary report, to go out there. He did the initial historic evaluation of the property. So this would kind of bring it to current day. That was from 2006. So bring it current day, see what the condition of the structures is, what is basically salvageable, what should be saved, what's of historic value, what has been added on later, like just to kind of assess what we have, to make sure that we know what we have. And then break it into 3 steps. So what needs to be addressed right away, what is kind of a mid-range goal that should be addressed sooner rather than later, and then what's kind of a long-term to make sure that the properties are stabilized and going forward, what needs to happen. So that's kind of the concept of what the proposal is that he's going to put together for the board to consider. I don't have it yet, but we'll have it in a couple weeks, and we can bring it to a business meeting.
So, okay, so that's great. So at a future business meeting, we'll have the proposal.
Yep.
And we'll have a potential agreement to discuss.
Yeah,
And to
correct.
vote on?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So that's basically, that's all I had for that. So that will help guide the future discussions.
Anyone else on the board? Do we comment, public comment?
Take
or-
public comment on
Any-
that.
Anyone in the public want to comment on the Sedgley property at all?
We should give people the opportunity to comment on the BioBlitz too. We didn't.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
we can do that.
essentially more broadly or specifically BioBlitz?
We're still in item number 1, so we're
Yeah.
good.
Item number 1.
Oh, we're still on item, okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Sedgley Farm, yeah, number 1, Sedgley Farm or the
Yeah.
BioBlitz on Sedgley Farm.
Yes. So Karen Guerrero, Rooster Hill. So basically I have a question about what having the parks open to the public could mean. Could it be like partially open with one trail only? Or does the whole park have to be opened to for the declaration of public trust?
Oh, those are two separate things. The Declaration of Public Trust that's a legal document that the board will have to execute.
But
Where
I thought you said the park had to be open.
that is another condition in order for us to obtain our grant money.
Okay, so yeah, so basically I'm talking about that, about obtaining the grant money and the opening.
It would have to be open to the public.
All of it, or could it be just a portion? That's
don't-
basically my question.
I-
I'm trying to find out whether maybe just a portion of the park without without the buildings could be opened up first before doing it all together, instead of doing it all together.
I would have to ask the county that. I don't know that offhand.
Okay, sounds fine. And then let's see one more thing. Okay, yes, this is about the master plan, the grants for that. So while drafting the plan, the grant proposal, did you specify whether it's going to be a preserve or a park or what does a
No, because that's what will be determined later. That's the purpose of the master plan, is to determine what the potential future uses are.
Okay, so you don't have to specify that before going through this grant process?
No, the grant application was for money to be used for a master plan.
Okay, without any description of what might be done? Okay.
Anybody else? All right. Moving on to number 2, discussion on Wawa permit application for quote unquote, welcome to Schuylkill Township sign at 799 Valley Forge Road.
Yeah, so the reason this is on the agenda is because the developer for the new Wawa is moving along, and they've put in their permit application to install the sign. And these are like not the signs on the building, not the fuel signs, but these are the decorative signs that you'll see that Wawa installs. You see them all over various townships. So this is included in their plans, and when the land development plans were approved by the board, it was a condition of the approval that the board would have ultimate approval over what goes on that sign. So here we are, and now's the time to discuss what language you'd like to see on the sign.
What language or what, so we have this one schematic, this streetscape, which
Yeah, that's all I have.
it doesn't have, it's not like a rendering. It's sort of
No.
almost like a blueprint type document.
Yeah,
So the sign will be on the property though?
yes,
Okay.
yep.
No, it's okay. So do they have my imagination doesn't expand past welcome to Schuylkill Township. Do they have examples of variations of language that other townships have employed?
So it's funny you say that, because I asked that precise question, and the answer to that was most say welcome.
I mean, it's
And
not.
the reason
Do we
in-
have to have it? Do we want it?
I think you want it.
Okay.
I asked
And
my
it was-
informal poll of my children, and they said, "Sure, that sounds like a great idea."
I definitely want it. No.
Okay.
And it was a condition that us getting that sign was also a condition of the approval.
I think
So
I was
that was
at
included.
one of the developers' presentations a couple of years ago, it's just as a resident, and it was going to be on the corner heading towards Phoenixville, and it's like, well, you're kind of leaving Schuylkill. I think maybe, and they go, oh, that's a good point. You know?
That was the
So as long
precise
as it's
discussion, and the reason the
positioned-
decision was not made at the time, and that's why here we are.
I think if it's just in a logical position, which would, I guess, be more Phoenixville towards Schuylkill, right?
I don't know how they would put it there though. So you're driving on 23 and it would be on the left-hand side. You wouldn't see it because it would be like, you'd have to like turn your head like that.
So is it at the corner of
I think
23
it's
and
at the
Whitehorse?
corner.
I'm not sure it makes sense then, because it's kind of like, it's a little confusing that the night, a large, like going down 23, you're really heading to the borough pretty quickly. So it's sort of illogical to me.
My only reason for, first, I think it's nice to identify us as a township. A lot of people live in this township and think they live in Phoenixville. So I think that's nice. Yes, it's true. Or they don't know that we exist. It is sort of the most commercial hub, village-like hub of our township. And so.
Okay, and I guess to counter my own point, it's not like it's saying you are entering Schuylkill.
No.
It's just
Yeah.
welcome. So maybe that's okay. then.
Or if you don't want it to say welcome, it could just say Schuylkill
You're in
Township.
Schuylkill Township.
Schuylkill Township.
You
or
are here.
You've been here for a while.
But you may be leaving soon.
I don't have I think welcome to Schuylkill Township is nice and friendly.
Okay. So
Maybe
no,
like at that, at where Whitehorse and not 23, like, I'm picturing something that's not more at the angle there.
I think
Rather
it
than
wraps.
directing one
So
side.
I think it like wraps around.
Yeah.
Because,
Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So no strong objections to welcome to Schuylkill Township. Okay, I will give that feedback and I will put it on the, but it will be on the June 8th agenda for a formal vote, which I want you to do because it was a condition of the approval, so I just
Yes.
want to have that record.
I understand.
Okay.
We have some
We're
comments.
open to public ideas if there are alternative wording suggestions.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My only point that I want to make is typically when you see a welcome to, you're entering into that area. And so it would be far better at the other end of 23 as opposed to 3 minutes before you enter Phoenixville, because it is misleading. I would just say not welcome to Schuylkill Township.
You would have it say not welcome.
Well,
Turn back.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Township.
I don't know whether they need a sign. They got Wawa up there. I mean, how much more do they need in signage? It's a huge,
Well, this one's for
facility.
us. This sign's for us, not for them.
Okay,
It's not saying Wawa at all.
do we need it? I mean,
Yes,
do
it was a
we-
condition of the approval of the land
Okay,
development plans.
Well, then something other than welcome to, because when I see a welcome to any other place, you're entering into the area. And I don't
From a road sign
You-
perspective, I would agree, but
You could have Schuylkill Township established,
That's true.
with the date, and it's actually our 200th anniversary, I learned, so.
Agree.
So you could have, established in, yeah,
cursive.
so it's just,
No, kids can't
drop
read
the
cursive.
welcome.
Kids don't read cursive.
That's true. So maybe
So
we'll
now
have-
we do have,
maybe we'll have 3 options and we vote next time. Welcome to Schuylkill Township.
No, what's the other third
Here's the
option?
third. We'll come up with something.
Not
welcome. Not welcome.
Yeah, 1826.
Chester County, Schuylkill
What-
Township,
As my kids would
established.
say.
I like that. Schuylkill Township, Chester County is one option, which is not my vote, but Schuylkill Township established, blah, 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 or welcome to Schuylkill Township.
This is not deep, we don't, as my kids would say, this is not deep. Let's just say Schuylkill Township established in the year we were established.
great.
Okay.
Can we all get behind that?
Yep.
Yes. See, your democracy at work, people.
Let's just hope we all vote in line with that.
Yeah, no vote changing before the 2
We,
days.
Bob, if you're still, we didn't
Correct,
ask
yes.
Bob's
Is
input.
he still here?
Is Bob here still?
I
there.
feel psychically that he's in support of this.
I think he's
It's okay,
established.
because
that.
you're gonna vote,
We're gonna vote.
you're gonna
Yeah.
vote at the next meeting, so that's okay. I have enough feedback that I can,
Move along.
we're good.
All right.
Thank you for your suggestion.
Any other public comment on that before we move to the next one? No? All right. Number 3, update on financial planning / capital budgeting software project.
And this item is on for Bob. Bob, are you still there? Did you want to give an update on this?
Oh, I think we're gonna do Did you guys do any more meetings?
Yeah. So we did a demo
there he is.
with.
Oh, I just can't hear him.
Oh, is he there?
He was there first.
Oh, we can see him.
Raise your hands. Raise your hand if you can hear us. Is he raising his hand?
No.
Thumbs up if you can hear us.
Is your,
Oh, your mic's not
your
on.
mic's not on. So he can't hear you.
He can hear us.
Thumbs up if you can hear us.
Oh,
You can.
hey.
Okay.
We just can't hear you.
Since we can't hear you, thumbs up again if you're okay with John providing a update. Is his thumb up?
Are you-
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
John providing update.
I was gonna laugh so hard if you gave a thumbs down. Comedic timing and everything. All right. No, John. I'm sorry, Lori. Could you remind me the name of the
MyGov.
ClearGov. ClearGov. Thank you.
I think MyGov is the over.
Ah, yes.
That's okay.
So ClearGov gave a presentation to us. I personally like their software a lot more. It was we obviously
Prior vendor.
then the private vendor, then Scenario. Thank you. I'm gonna call them Sinclair. Scenario. Admittedly, it was a demo, so we didn't get to play with it. But from what we saw, it was a cleaner design. It seemed to have more features associated with it. It was very flexible. The downside to it is you are paying for a nicer product. They break up their licensing model by modules. So you buy specific modules for what it is you want to get. There was like a set of, I want to say 8 of them. And then we were looking at 4 specifically. So 3 related to budgeting. And then the 4th one was on the capital project stuff specifically. I'm going to call it forecasting, but for exactly what it is we're trying to do. So 3 on budgeting, then 4 on long-term planning. There we go. Long-term planning is what I'm looking for. Again, it was the nicer product, but the overall cost was around, it was in the mid-20s, so like 24, 25,000 with
26,250 if you get everything.
Thank you.
Per year.
And then that was without the like 4,200 or 7,200 one time or like
Plus,
roll on.
I think it is 7,500 one-time fee.
Yes,
Yeah. For the
correct.
first year, you roll onto it.
And that was for all of the modules, or is that for a limited?
four.
It's for all of the modules,
26
but
two
in
per
order,
year. And then,
we would need all of the modules. We would need-
All right, guys, I signed out and came back on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hey, there we go. Okay. Had to drop off and reconnect. Go ahead, carry on, John.
So yes, it is the nicer software, but you're paying extra for it. But I think it's it would, if we're gonna go that route, I think it's worth getting the nicer one. So we're gonna get everything out of it. They did have a nice component of it too, where you could actually do public components to it. So you can set up, you can link. They had some demos on other township and county websites where you could link to their public dashboard where they have all this stuff kind of available. So you can use it for the public transparency and communication stuff we've been talking a lot about. Which is a really nice feature. And that's the kind of thing where it's not building a website from scratch. You plug in a bunch of data and it renders it for you. You write some text, some like about us, our financial, not our financial statement, our mission statement, like that kind of thing. So from that perspective, that was the nice add-on to have. But yeah, overall, I was far more impressed with that one than I was with Scenario. Anything I missed, Bob? You want to tack on there?
One of the things we talked a lot about with him was one of the modules was specifically about strategic planning. And, the comment was made, it's definitely better to be proactive than reactive. And that's what that part of that tool or that tool in the basket allows you to do. And I think personally, that's actually the most important. We talked about maybe piecemealing this because it's a lot of work to get it up and running. And the accounting portion, we could move our accounting over into it and do that as phase 1, and then take a look at, adding other modules later to save cost. However, after thinking about it, I think that's backwards. I think the biggest thing that's driving this is transparency, communication, planning, and having a strategic plan is critical. So, shoot, did I lose you guys again?
No, we can hear you.
No, we hear you.
Okay, my screen just went goofy. So I think that's one of the things we need to talk to Rob about is, or figure out how we can get that part moving quickly, because the accounting we have, the numbers are plugged in, it's important eventually to plug them in, but I think without having a strategic plan and really getting the public's buy-in, getting all the shareholders, the stakeholders from all different departments to really lay it out and put that together. I just don't know what value it would bring if we held off on that and did the accounting part first.
Can I ask you, Bob, are there any other, and John too, are there any other players in this space that are we basically looking at just these two, or is there another one? I don't know why 3 just sounds like the right number, but what?
Human brain.
The human brain, says John. But
Yeah,
is
I've
there
reached
anything
out to a
else that
couple
we can
others,
evaluate?
and we could set up other demos, but I haven't been impressed so far with the service and the response time of the others. And these guys are aggressive. They've got 1,700 case histories in nothing but government. So they seem to be the best out there, responsive, and all the features, and they've evolved, and they do a great job with it. A ton of folks we can call for references. So I would have liked to see 3, maybe 4, but I haven't gotten a lot of good responses. Now, shame on me, I haven't really emailed a ton of people and gone into electronically ask for demos, which I think is the next step if we want to get more people at the table.
In lieu of getting another demo, would they give us a free trial? A lot of times when I evaluated software in the past, they would give us like a teaser trial so that we can play around with it. I'm just
I don't think we specifically asked about that. No,
maybe
but
is that
it's-
something that we could ask, or?
We could. I would not hold your breath, just given the nature of the beast, because the amount of legwork that goes into it up front. This has a lot less because it natively integrates with QuickBooks, which is what we use. It makes it a lot easier.
No, it doesn't.
It didn't? No, it doesn't natively integrate. You can export the data and then you can import it.
You can do a bulk
And
export.
this does
Native.
not
Correct.
replace our accounting software.
Correct. Yes. But yeah, you because we would be primarily using it. Yes. But
What is
because
our
we'd
accounting
be
software
primarily
cost per
using it
year?
for the like.
We just,
Sorry,
sorry, Devin,
No, go
sorry,
ahead.
Devin asked me a question. 12,000, I think. No, he asked me our
What
accounting
our current
software.
accounting
Don't quote me on that though,
Like,
because
what would we
I
be
have
in
to
total-
check.
Total annual spend between accounting and.
It might be, we just switched it. I'd have to look up the number. But we're only 1 year in with our new accounting software.
And our accounting software doesn't have any kind of module for this, for long-term planning?
No.
Okay.
I am 100% in support of a strategic planning process that starts with organizing, a steering committee, and we don't have to make this overcomplicated and unwieldy, but just have the ability to get input from stakeholders, which, our departments, the public, business. I mean, you could streamline this and then have a process where you really arrive at, what you agree are the priorities. And that's really what it's, and what your vision is, okay? And then from there, you get into the budgeting and the financial piece. That's generally how strategic planning is done, okay? From my experience. And it's a good it's sort of your North Star, and it's sort of your reference so that you're not voting on significant capital projects and different things sort of one-off without looking at the big picture and really what's required from a funding standpoint. And with ClearGov, I've looked at the website. I'd love to see a demo. My sister's been in planning for a county up in New York State for many years, and they use ClearGov. And she said she worked with the sheriff's department manually for years, and she said now it's really slick. It works great. Everyone loves it, and it saves a lot of just labor and sort of headaches. So that's one endorsement, and that they use it principally for capital planning. But from what I've seen, it looks good, and I don't think a lot of townships do strategic planning. I don't think for me, I think it's a great idea for all the reasons we've talked about. The predictability, the transparency, and just sort of having. I think more townships. We can be a leader on that, and not necessarily have to be a follower. Is how I feel.
So I agree with all of that. I guess one of my questions is, we are not the ones who are going to have to work on the system. We're not the ones who are going to have to do the integration with to the extent there's integration with our accounting system. So I really do want to hear your thoughts on it, Lori, because for a long time you were doing maybe 3 different jobs. Now you have, I would say, a full complement of staff to help with budgeting and accounting. So is full utilization of this tool something that you can achieve with your current personnel staffing? Or will this require an additional person? Because I really think that we need to have like a fulsome discussion of that.
I don't feel like I quite know enough about it yet to exactly know that, but what I can tell you is that this will create a fair amount of additional work for me.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, absolutely. And I also question it, because now that we're talking about it, I feel like if we're kind of talking about 2 different things. If strategic planning is the goal, that can be achieved in a different avenue, where you might want to entertain hiring a consultant to handle that instead of purchasing a software for staff to do. I agree, like it looked like a great program. It's utilized, all of the examples they gave us were much bigger municipalities than us. And the implementation time on this, and I'm not saying I can't do it, I will do whatever you tell me to do. The timing of it, that was my other big concern that came up during this. There's about, conservatively, 60 to 90 day onboarding and implementation time on this. It's June now. This month, I'm starting to work on the 2027 budget. So the timing of it would be such that I would be doing that in 2 places. And this does not, I don't budget in QuickBooks, but it also doesn't integrate with our accounting software. So that means we have to manually import that data and do that manual data entry. They didn't show us how it actually imports.
They said you could export it and you can natively import the file format, which
Okay. In theory.
in best case scenario, it's a 2-button app operation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't know for sure what that actually looks like.
But I guess it depends on what the goal is, because also separate from this, myself and Michelle are already working on the 5-year budget that I was asked to do and the capital improvement plan to present for the August meeting. So we are actively working on that, and I will have a draft for you, because we're still investigating this. So it's also not budgeted for, but that's a different issue. But
I mean, my initial thinking is, and you're using just like spreadsheets to create this 5-year plan.
Yep.
Since we're just embarking on this effort, my gut feeling is we start moving with baby steps, and it's like you don't buy furniture for a house when you just buy it, you kind of live in it for a little bit. And maybe we start off with the approach that Lori's taking. And then from that, we determine if this is something we want to budget for next year and start the software next year. I have seen a lot of IT projects, because I supported IT from legal, that were jumped into, and then then they were abandoned because we're not abandoned, maybe not fully optimized is the right way of saying it, because the ongoing maintenance and of the software wasn't something that was resourced.
yeah,
That's different. I mean, the number of users on this software are going to be limited, like less than 5. Okay,
it's going to be,
maybe 2.
Yep.
Right? So like those IT implementations, and John would know a lot more, and you guys, it's different in a bigger enterprise, corporate situation. This is simple, not simple, but it's not. I would ask ClearGov, like what's the implementation look like? What are some of the things that we can expect? Like how do you prepare for this, and see what they have to say?
So guys, I just want to interject. The meeting I thought went really well with them, and I think it went well enough that the rest of us deserve to see the presentation in full, and then we can talk more. Without you guys really seeing it, I don't think you can understand it. And then we can ask them a lot of questions about how well is it received. I agree with you, John. When I've seen sales teams of huge companies try to shift into a new product, it can be horrible. If it's not a lot of people, it could be a lot easier. We don't know. But with that, we can, maybe like Lori said, if we can't implement it now in full, maybe we take it piecemeal and maybe we outsource the strategic plan and then weave them together as they're both done. But I think the rest of the board deserves to see a full presentation. And I know we hate to add things to our normal meeting, but I think it's a good idea to probably do this sooner than later.
We
They
recorded it.
recorded it,
So
so,
we can- yeah.
yeah, I can circulate it. They recorded the demo.
To get back to Danielle's original point, though, I think that the discussion here is whether or not we want to go full bore into this very large-scale product that is tailor-built for companies with a budget 100 times ours, or capable of handling a budget 100 times ours, or if we want to take a spin, again, with the timeline in mind, at doing it without that for a year, and then see how it goes. And then next year, by the time we'll know by the time we're doing budgeting, whether we want to budget for this. Like, no, we tried it this year. It didn't pan out. We need something. This isn't going to fit. Let's budget for it next year.
Well, are we even able to get it in for this year if we wanted to?
Exactly. That's the concern. Like we would be.
I don't know, based on the demo I saw, I have huge concerns that I would have the capacity to be able to successfully implement this and get through the onboarding while also simultaneously, because he confirmed for me that I'm still going to have to build the 2027 budget separately. So I'll be having to duplicate efforts. Yeah. So
Didn't he say there was a? I thought he said there was a bulk. What was the word he used? Where once it's built, you can do a bulk dump into it.
once I do the budget though, but then that won't be done until December. And then you can import it in, but I have to have the budget completed in order to import it, and I won't have that until the end of the year. So what he said was you could then do it in phases, in modules, and start with maybe instead of using the build and present concept, which is kind of using the whole software, that you just first use the present module, which will just kind of create a budget book of the budget that I prepare. Now, at the last time that we discussed this, I showed the board an example. That's what I'm working on. So I will have that to present. So perhaps while we continue to go through these demos and everybody look at them, and you guys can all look at the demo for this one, and if Bob has other, if he gets responses from other companies that he's interested in setting up demos with, we can continue to do that simultaneously. And then we use the first draft that I present for you to give me feedback so we can kind of really narrow down, all right, what do you want to see more of? We like this, but we'd like it to look a little different. Like, it would just help to give, because it's the first time we've ever done this here, I think that it would be helpful for us to have a baseline before, at least in my opinion, before we jump into a software, unless everybody is like, yes, that's the one I want, that's what I want it to look like, love it. But knowing...
Yeah, I mean, I think the relevant question is like having it, let's say we did have this fully like onboarded and you're proficient in it, would we make different decisions in our budgeting, 2027 budgeting decision-making process than we would make in the absence of it? Because if the answer to that is no, then it's, in my opinion, better to take time and be, more, balanced about this, right? Take the baby steps. Now, if we do think it could prevent us from, if we do think it would allow us to make better decisions in our 2027 budget, then maybe that's a reason to push. But and I don't know the answer to that question, but that's kind of how I'm conceptualizing this. I mean, and I guess to piggyback, like you know more about this than anyone else in this room, and so I think defer to the expert. And so I think if we, to the extent the 2027 budget decision making process is going to generally be focused on the same things, regardless of whether we're using ClearGov or not. And we're transparent about that. And maybe it does mean some longer term 5-year capital planning, how we factor some of that into the maybe the 2027 budget process looks a little bit different because we don't have that full 5-year look that we hope to ideally have, say, in 2027 when we're going into 2028. But like, if we know that going into it, we can account for that and work around that?
Well, you will have it though, because I'm already working on it. So
Okay.
you will have, it just won't be an output from ClearGov, but you will have but the 5-year budget though is not something that you will adopt. You can't.
Okay.
You can only adopt an annual budget. So can be used as a tool, but they're going to be purely estimates. It's for conceptualizing decision making. It's not, you cannot adopt
It's a
5-year
planning
budget.
tool. It's not something that
Yeah.
you're voting on or
Correct.
officially adopting. It's a planning tool.
Yes.
I agree with everything you guys have said, and I just like that we're moving in this direction as a group. So when we get there exactly and how, I'm respectful of what is being asked of Lori and the team. But I'm relieved that we're generally in agreement that this bigger view is going to be helpful ultimately. And I think if a tool like that is as good as it's, from what I saw on the website, and we'll take a look at the presentation that you send out. Maybe once it's up and running, maybe it actually is more efficient and it's an easier process than how we're doing it. So
Trust me.
So how does the team-
Any
Oh, go ahead, Lori.
is going to make my life easier. I just want to make sure that this is actually going to make my life easier, and I can say with certainty the timing of it right now is not ideal, and it's not really going to work. And he confirmed that when I asked that question.
So I'd like everybody to understand the product and get a look. What do you guys think about bringing them in to give a presentation to the whole team? I know we could watch the recording, but that doesn't allow you to ask questions. Is this something we should consider putting on our next agenda, to have them come in and give a brief intro?
So can we watch the recording and then make that decision? Because we don't have a June meeting, right? Is it?
June workshop.
Sorry, we don't have a June workshop. Apologies.
That's correct.
And so that would be the natural day that I would propose that we would bring them in. So, I'm okay bringing them in a different workshop, but then you are moving towards probably the fall.
Well, how busy is our June normal meeting looking, Lori? Are we've got a conditional use,
Yeah, I don't think I can accommodate it on the offhand without looking at the draft. I don't know that I can accommodate it on the June business meeting for a presentation of a demo of this scope. Because it was about an hour long.
well, I'd say if everybody could take some time, you can talk to it better if you could take some time and watch the video. But then I think there's two different things here. I think the one is, how can we integrate the accounting portion, and what can we do with regards to really putting together a strategic plan? And I like what you were saying there, Lori, that an outsourced third party might be a good idea. So maybe that's something we, on a parallel course, research and see what we can find as far as a good recommendation, maybe from PSATs and other folks of who could help us there. So
I will open up to public comment on number 3.
Hi, John Lasowski. It's fascinating hearing this discussion about strategic planning, because I'm currently working through a strategic planning process with Green Valley's Watershed Association. We took the board and we took a small subset of that to be a planning team. And I'm doing this because I spent a few years as a senior strategic planning specialist at Shared Medical Systems. And I said, that's pretty many years ago. But to prepare for this work with Green Valleys, I put a kind of skeletal strategic planning process together. And I just wanted to mention that two things. One, I'd be happy to share that, annotate it, and share it with you if you want to see what I'm doing. Secondly, I've found that the software isn't what makes strategic planning. It's the communication discussion amongst the power players in the organization, and the ability to reach agreement on mission, vision, values, goals, strategic objectives, and then take those objectives down to strategies and tactics that people could actually do. And then the budget underpins all of that, because you might have grand schemes that you want to do and not the money to do it. So that's where reality, really meets philosophy or thought process. So if you'd like, I could send that along and you could see what I'm doing anyway.
I think that'd be great.
Thank you.
Do you want to be a consultant for us?
Hi, John Moraz, Schuylkill Township. I want to defend Lori because, again, she's got a tough job. And as an accountant CPA, I understand that if you're working with QuickBooks now, if it doesn't integrate with QuickBooks, she's going to have a lot more difficult time doing this. And there are programs out there. You guys have looked at some of these. Have you looked at all of them? I just did a Google search of integration with municipalities and QuickBooks, and there are some out there with 5-year budgeting. So going to this, what John and Bob went to, without integration, yes, you have maybe a 2-step approach. Tie in whatever it is, but it's going to be a lot more difficult, a lot more time consuming. And us township people, if they're going to spend $25,000 for this, it's going to take her much more time to do this. So don't rush to this. It hasn't been done yet. A great conversation. Help Lori out. Thank you.
Amen.
She is beloved and appreciated, John, trust me.
All right. Any other comments on financial planning? All right. Number 4, update on deer management discussion.
So I just wanted to, I kind of rushed through this at our last business meeting in my 2-minute report, but we did have, Bob and I had a really good discussion with DCNR, with the Game Commission, I should say, about some programs that they have where they foster relationships with the community. They have community hunting programs. They also have, they talked about some DCNR biodiversity grants that one could get, although I think we're just going to get all the free services from you, sir, that we can. In the meantime, but it was a really, really great conversation, and it's impressive what they're doing. I do want to say that until we open this park up to the public, we cannot really, in my opinion, embrace a community hunting approach because it is a form of recreation. Just like you can't open up the park to only people who want to engage in volleyball or people who want to do pickleball. You can't say every other form of recreation is prohibited except we're going to allow our residents to hunt on the property. So I do believe that in the immediate short term, the approach that we should be taking in terms of deer management, if we decide to go with that route, would be to partner with a community group such as the Chester Valley Deer Management Association. Now, again, this is my view as one board member. I did ask Lori to look into what insurance impacts we might potentially have if we were to partner with Chester Valley Deer Management. I'm a bottom line kind of person. I want to know, is it going to affect our premium or is it going to affect our coverage? Those are the things I care about, not their feelings. If they feel, oh, we don't want you to, I don't care about feelings. I want to know, is it going to affect our premiums or affect our coverage limits? So I just want to give an update on it. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us in the future to explore these various programs with the Game Commission, but I think for the immediate future, this is something that we can do. Also, if the board feels comfortable, I think that for private property owners, right, who live in HOAs or areas where they want to allow for hunting on private property, I think we could certainly post those resources on our website and make their community members aware of that. One thing that I do think we need to set reasonable expectations about is that generally deer control occurs where the hunting is happening, right? And so just by us doing deer control on this property does not mean that a half mile away, people are going to see the benefits of that. For example, if there's hunting being done around a neighborhood, but there's no hunting done on the neighborhood, you could be driving deer into that neighborhood. So I just want people to have reasonable expectations of what we can accomplish so that there's not disappointment if individual homeowners don't see a significant reduction in deer impacts. So I spoke a lot, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to give that update, and that's my gut feeling on next future steps.
Well, I'll chime in a little bit. I love what the Game Commission's doing. They're actually taking the same approach as some of the smaller regional deer management groups like Chester Valley, and they're saying that's the best way to do it. Let's duplicate it. I don't know if they realize the management component of that and how detailed it is. On big properties where they've done it, it seems to be working, but they don't have any municipalities and no townships that have really done anything with it yet. I hope it works long term. I think Danielle, you said early on wouldn't want to be the first township to guinea pig something with them. But I agree with you. I think this is something to me that relates to health and safety. There's been tragedies in the area with deer-related accidents. We could certainly try to get baseline data points and all kinds of information about how many there are. But we see it. We hear from the residents. We see the police reports. I think we have enough to take action. So I guess the first question is, Lori, have you gotten any information regarding insurance and if there's an impact?
Yes, I have gotten an opinion. I'm not going to go into extreme detail on insurance coverages for the township at a public meeting, but what I can say is that they are familiar with the group itself, and they have other insureds that have agreements that have been drafted by their individual solicitors that have been reviewed and approved and go into effect between the municipality and the group with certain insurance requirements that we would have. And I know that Chester Valley Deer Management, they mentioned that they are familiar with providing and meeting municipal insurance requirements. So that type of agreement would be something that we could do.
And I said this at the meeting with Chester Valley Deer Management. I would really like, this is a privilege that we're granting them to be on our property and harvest these deer. And I would like to see them make tangible efforts with our residents to, where it's appropriate, incorporate them into the hunting where it is appropriate and possible. And Bob, I think you said that you had a similar experience of being someone who slowly over time were able to participate in these managed hunting groups. So you have experience with this, but I think it would behoove them to demonstrate that they are engaging with our community members.
I agree. I think that's what makes them shine already, is that they have all local people in their group, and from directly out of our township, if there's people that can meet the criteria, I'm all about it. I think it's awesome. But I just want to say, we could look at it like it's a privilege for them. I think we also have to realize we're privileged to have a group like that is so well run, that's willing to work with us. So it's not that they're getting a great deal and they should be thanking us profusely. This is a win-win. They don't have to take us. If it's a piecemeal and it doesn't work and it's ugly for them, they can walk, and we don't want that to happen. We're fortunate to have somebody that's willing to take this on.
Mutually beneficial. The other thing is, and Bob, you reminded me of this, was deer assessments so that we can determine the success of the managed hunts. Now, as we discussed at our last workshop meeting? Mm-hmm. Last workshop meeting, they do not do that. But on this call that we had with the Game Commission, the American Deer Association, which is a group that I have, it's a real group that I have a contact with, told me that they have a program where they can teach communities how to do deer counts using trail cams. And so maybe that is something that we could first bring to EAC for a discussion on, to see if that is possible to do before this coming hunting season, as a way of getting a sort of a baseline assessment of deer. Again, I don't know all of the parameters and how it's done, but it's something that we could at least investigate and have a discussion with EAC about. I'm looking for excitement in their eyes. No? Okay. And maybe not. But well, before, I just want to make sure
it's all
your
order.
comment within the
Only
board.
because the cost of that equipment and getting out there is, it's a really hard thing to do, even if you had permission from every property owner, which they won't give. That would be a tough one to get.
No, Bob, just for Sedgley. Just for our.
Oh,
property.
well, but keep in mind, it's also seasonal. Deer travel quite a bit depending on food source, bedding, mating season. You may see, 30 deer on Sedgley, and then you might have 15 on the neighboring property one day, but the next day you could have it, only 6 on Sedgley and the rest on the other side, where they're going to migrate back and forth. So it's more of a bigger picture approach, I think, that you have to look at. We could tell these guys, hey, we're going to give you 1, 2, or 3 parks to work with. The big game for them and for us is to give them the support to go out and sign all kinds of other land. That's up to them to negotiate with private landholders. But if you give them a centerpiece to work with and you incentivize them and help and support in any way you can, you hope that they go to everybody that'll listen and sign. And that's what I did back in the 90s and early 2000s. There was just a ton of meetings to get homeowner associations, to get a 10-acre property next to a 3, next to a 2. And that's where you really get the numbers. So, but they need a piece to start with. And I'd say we give them full support. But, I think they mentioned even calling it out on the website, giving them the green light to meet with the chief, to give them the reports, give Lori the reports, give the list of names of where they are and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that I'm not suggesting that we go onto private landowners' properties and do deer assessments at all. And I'm not even suggesting that we do this. I'm suggesting that we have a conversation about it to understand what can be done. And that if we were to do something like this, it would be limited to property that the township controls. And the reason why I would suggest us at least investigating this is because I think our community is going to ask us, there will be people who are not in favor of this. And they are going to ask us, well, what has been the impact? And unless we can show them that there is a demonstrated beneficial impact in culling the deer herd, I think that we're opening ourselves up for criticism.
Oh, we are.
Worth having the conversation.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. And I remember, again, I go back to 1992, 93, when this happened before, and all the different options had to explore of trap and transfer, sterilization, the cost, massive amount of analysis has gone done. And it's not just our township where that happens. It's parks and it's other townships. And you're always going to have some people that aren't happy. So I agree. Do whatever you can to have a trail to show why we're doing what we're doing. But for me, when you see a fatality, and there's plenty of them that we can look back on, there's only so much you can do to appease everybody. If you've got to do something, eventually you just have to do it.
I guess, what do we give Lori as next steps? Because this would, if we were to do something like this, it would have to be voted at a business meeting. And we'd have to understand what we want her to key up, for us.
So before we get to that point, one other point of discussion is when this came up with the EAC, and I'm serving you up here, Drew, I'm sure that's what you're gonna come up here and talk about, is whether or not this is actually a problem. And wasn't approached from necessarily a point of skepticism, but what objective data do we have to actually back this up as to whether or not this is something we should actually be pursuing. We've talked about this through the lens of, is it a success? Their point of view is, was it necessary in the first place, or is it necessary in the first place? And while, Bob, I agree with you that, yeah, a fatality is bad, and I'm no way downplaying that, but they're going to happen living in an area with deer. No matter how much culling we do, as long as there's any deer left alive, we're going to have accidents, we're going to have fatalities. It's going to happen. So I don't want that to be a driver to be making a decision. I'm on the fence either way on this. Either way, this is not my area of expertise, so I'm leaning on a lot of people here. But I'd be remiss if I didn't call that out. So I did a good job, Devin. But Drew, if you wanted to expand on that point at all as well.
Yeah, thank you. Drew Shaw, Schuylkill Township resident, EAC member. Yeah, we've been talking about it at the EAC, and Danielle, you're absolutely right. As soon as you say as soon as the township says, oh, we're going to do something, there's going to be people with expectations on both sides, and you've got to have a real good foundation of information. And that's what we've been trying to do, is find out just how extensive the problem is. And there's not a whole lot of data out there. There's a lot of anecdotal data. Everybody knows somebody that almost hit a deer on the way home from work. The Pennsylvania database has, for the last 10 years, has 3 documented fatalities in Schuylkill Township involving deer. And that probably is because there's no requirement when an accident happens with a deer involved to say, yes, there was a deer involved. So the data is just deficient. So it could be happening, but there's no real data to back it up. We're still looking. There's insurance data that we might be able to find, for example. But you really do need to have documentation that there is a problem. And then at the other end, which you've already said, have some metrics that says, we started here, we did this, we ended here, we were effective. Or we weren't because of this, and we're going to do it this way next time. So it seems like you're on the right track, but we're still trying to figure out, as John said, how extensive is the problem? Is it something that a private landowner should be involved in, or does it rise to the level of township should be involved? So the EAC would be very glad to help you out any way we can.
Yeah, and that's why I think that it's helpful. If we were to use APHIS's managed program, which we won't because it is very cost prohibitive, but they do that as part of their program where they do this biological assessment before the hunting starts. That's why I think that we should have a conversation about some self-serve options that can be informed through best practices by an organization like the American Deer Association, whose whole mission is to manage deer populations. They're like the Ducks Unlimited of, of deer, managing wildlife and conservation in order to foster, prudent hunting. So, and I'm saying this is not a pro-hunting, anti-hunting. We've heard from a lot of township residents that this is something that they would like to see us engage in. It is certainly another thing that Lori now will have to deal with. And so we're not trying to take on initiatives. I think we all have, anecdotal evidence. I'm coming this more from an ecological imbalance perspective than a public safety. I think there's more people getting into car accidents from cell phone usage than deer, but I'm not minimizing that aspect of it also, but I'm looking at the deer management issue from more of an overpopulation, ecological impact. We had a very persuasive presentation from Valley Forge at our last workshop that showed the impact before and after using managed hunting groups on ground nesting birds and some of the understory plants and how they came back after they controlled the deer populations.
Yeah, and not just I'm sorry, I don't mean to monopolize this, but not just the understory, but the future forest. I mean, the thing that got Valley Forge really involved in it, because I was working at the Montgomery County Planning Commission at the time, and we had some interaction with them, was the fact that somebody finally said, your forest that you see now is not going to be the same forest in 50 years because the deer are eating all the young plants and they're not going to. So I think that's great. You're talking with them. Just the one thing I wanted to mention, again, it comes back to expectations. I want to say this right, not judging at all, but some people have an idea that my plants, my landscaping shouldn't be touched at all. And as soon as it is, it's a problem. And I understand that because I do a lot of landscaping and I hate it when I come out and the stuff that I just planted is half eaten. But as John said, you're living in southeastern PA. There's deer. They're gonna eat. So again, I think it's important to find what is the level of the problem and what should the township be doing about it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it's going to be difficult to do that. I think, to really quantify it and do like that kind of a study, who's doing it, who's paying for it. But the way I look at this whole program is more, if there's a private group, our role is to vet them and feel like they're the responsible professional group who is sensitive to residents in their approach. And then it's a agreement between that private group and a private landowner And that's it, you know, and it, you know, other than property that the township owns directly, which is limited, you know, it's really a private group with a private landowner. So anyone, I think the communication of how this is done might be important, which is we're not sending in, you know, a force, you know, where you don't want them on your property. We wouldn't want like a misperception that way, but that's kind of how I look at it. I don't know that you're going to get, it is kind of more the eye test and really, you know, maybe some data from the police or things like that.
I wonder if there's Lyme disease data. I mean, I think that would be, well, I think we're done. Once we're done, then we go to, yeah. So I don't know, that just, maybe it's just because I had Lyme disease a couple years ago, but I have indoor outdoor cats, so I see thousands of ticks on them. But like, that to me is, you know, the accidents are probably such a small number that you can't get good data, like good correlation from that. But I don't know if CDC has numbers, maybe like Lyme disease cases in the township going up X percentage year over year might be another thing to look at, so.
So I'll just say this, that the reception from the public has gotten much easier on groups over the last 30 years than it originally was. People that used to detest hunting and scream at you are now saying, can you please put me on the top of your list to come in and take deer? There's not as many archers as there used to be. And one thing you got to keep in mind is that we've chased all the deer's predators out of the area or killed them. There's no mountain lions or wolves or, you know, we get some coyotes, but I mean, all the big predators are gone. The number one predator for deer right now is the automobile. You got to keep that in mind. We've learned to accept it and say it's broken and people are dying, but, you know, maybe, you know, that's not, it's going to happen if we do something or don't. I don't agree with that. I think if we knock half the deer down, we could knock half the fatalities down, and that matters to me. Property damage, yeah, that's an issue. Lyme disease, absolutely. They're all related to the deer. But you take away the predator and then want to debate forever whether or not to supply one because your cars are already doing it, there's something wrong there.
Well, I know we have some public comment, but I just want to make clear what next steps we're giving Lori. I think that we can definitely engage, if EAC is game for it, a conversation at the next EAC meeting to discuss what sort of biological assessments could be done to create that baseline that they would be interested in. I think that we could have Lori Mike draft up an agreement to provide and get the COI, the certificate of insurance, from the deer hunting group. So at least we can take the next steps with our insurer. I don't know why I'm looking at Bob's screen. He's not even there. Looking at your name, Bob. But I think that there are those are the steps that I'd say, let's have a discussion to find out more information about biological assessments. Oh, there you are. More discussions about biological assessments. Find out, you know, from our insurer what insurance requirements they would want to see from Chester Valley Deer Associates or a similar group. I think with that one is the sort of the gold standard. You know, have a follow-up conversation with Chester Valley Deer Associates and just find out how they could, you know, integrate more community involvement in the organization. Get an agreement drafted up. Just, again, we don't have to commit. I'm not pushing for this to happen this year. I just think that we need to have measured steps so we know when we decide to pull the trigger, if we decide to pull the trigger on this, we've done all of our due diligence.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Anita Schmidt, and I am very grateful to hear that you are open to partnering with Chester County. I think
Anita, can you get a little closer to the mic?
if you were here, perhaps you were, for the two presentations in the workshop meeting, it really did strike a balance for me in understanding between the park and Tredyffrin and other townships, neighboring folks who are actually doing something. Could be why this is driving herds of, you know, deer into our properties. 100 residents in Valley Forge Woods signed a petition. This is real to us. This is every day and every night. And it isn't just one issue, it's every issue. It's the public health issue. I don't let my granddaughter play in the front yard anymore because there's deer droppings everywhere. And I know the deer are traipsing through there. And I don't want her to get Lyme's disease, okay? Seriously, I'm a nurse. I know the reality of that. So I don't let her play there anymore. The plants, the trees, the destruction to property. These animals are very aggressive. They're not Bambi. They really aren't. I mean, they will look you in the eye and they don't care whether you're there or not. They jump over my fence like rabbits, and unfortunately, they don't always make it. I have a picture from last Wednesday of another impaled deer. This is the third one, and this was the nastiest one. So if we're talking about humanity, I put on my coffee and look out the window, and I see at the far end of my property that there is a very dead deer. And part of the body's in my neighbor's yard, and she's an elderly woman with 2 dogs, can't put her dogs out. So I called the Game Commission. They get 72 hours to remove an animal. That's their contract, 72 hours. We're in the middle of a very developed development, okay? You cannot imagine how horrific this is for people. We're talking about humanity here. So if there is a way, and these things are meandering all over the place. This isn't one deer. These are, 4 or 5 deer that can wander through people's yards on a nightly basis. This is real in those developments. So it's not like you're going to be driving them in. We just have, and I don't think you can count them because they're here and they're gone. They follow a path. They wander across Country Club. How many deer have been picked up on Country Club Road dead? That means somebody's car was damaged and possibly somebody hurt. I don't know. I mean, if we have the numbers or we don't have the numbers, it doesn't matter to me because if it's one person hurt, one car on Country Club Road, I'm seeing them down on 23 also. So please, the good thing about the Chester County folks, they really have a very balanced approach to this. They listen to the people who are concerned about doing this at all. And they listen to the people like me who are saying, what can we do that's really right and balanced? And, the deer that are taken down, their food is given to people who can use it. So it's not like, this is wasteful. This is actually very balanced in so many ways. And when I heard their presentation, I was very persuaded that that's the right answer for our community. So I do thank you, and I do appreciate you having listened. 100 people will thank you, at least. So thank you very much.
And Anita, the only thing I would say is just like temper expectations, because today, right now, I know that there are people on Clothier Springs Road who allow hunting on their properties. And so if there is a decision by your HOA to not permit the HOA properties to be hunted, you could see an impact where deer are driven into your, I don't want you to be disappointed if you don't see this problem, this immediate problem for you to be alleviated by what we decide to do.
Yeah, well, it has to be fewer deer coming in.
Somewhere. I want to set, I just don't want you to be disappointed. Okay.
I hear you. Thank you.
I think we had another.
No, it's good.
I would like to do 1 year of the BioBlitz in Sedgley so that we can see what the current status is, because I know that Chester Valley does a lot of they do bait the deer, and that will change the pattern of the deer and pretty much other things that they have kind of in contact. So I would really like to kind of see what our natural state is right now. I know that the previous owners did bait, and just from being like adjacent to Sedgley, since they stopped doing that, like I don't see the deer coming. Like we used to have the same thing. We would have, 8 deer walking through our backyard. It was craziness. But
you have 2 dogs. They come to my yard.
Or mine.
Well, I got two now.
My cats are friends with them, though.
Yeah. But either way, like when you start baiting, you completely change how things are running out there. So I'd rather not jump into it on Sedgley. If you want to try it out on the Pickering Preserve, where we found, I think Earl found some tree stands down there. Someone was doing something down there. If you want to try them out there, just to kind of get a feel of how they work, you know, before we kind of expand it onto, you know, all of the areas, I think that would be an option. I also think it would be interesting if you could ask them if they could do it without baiting, see if they're open for that. I don't know. Because also baiting also has an issue with the chronic wasting disease, which is, it's a big issue, like I think we went through before with, and that's the reason why in everywhere else except for Southeast PA, you can't bait. Out west, out everywhere else, you cannot bait. Granted, they have the space so they can do more traditional hunting and it's just easier. But there are issues with baiting, which is why the Game Commission doesn't allow that. So if we could maybe potentially not bait, would be if we could ask. And I also think we should ask if they could, anything that they do kill, if I know they do use foresters as a, for their excess, if they could give all of the Schuylkill, or it's, you know, at least set the percentage of whatever they do kill has to go to foresters and then they give it to packs. So we could somehow set some sort of reasonable expectation of, you know, what could come back to Schuylkill Township. I think that would also be a good win for us.
We could ask them to go and appear before the EAC and answer questions, and then the EAC could provide a report to the board with their recommendation based on that.
Yeah, the other thing that I didn't mention, I'm sorry, this is way more than I wanted to talk about deer today, was that the Game Commission does help groups, private landowners, they're not working with municipalities yet, but they have a lot of interest in developing deer hunting plans. And that deer hunting plan could be used for managed deer hunting, it could be used for community hunting, and so I do need to follow up with them to find out whether that's something that we can engage in now, before, because, with the understanding that we can't, even if we wanted to do community hunting, we can't do that for several years, right? And so a deer hunting plan could specify like the number of does you have to take before you can take a buck. It would specify what type of firearm you can use. Bow hunting would be preferred. It could set certain parameters that would guide what the hunting looks like. Do we require the meat to be donated to a food bank, right? Things like that could be incorporated into a deer management plan. And I hear you about making sure that we have a baseline assessment and we do that for a year. So.
Any additional comment on deer or anything else?
Sorry.
So just to clarify, what am I doing?
I mean, I like the idea of Chester Valley going for the EAC. I think
I was
that
going
makes
to say the
sense.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But at the same time, I think we need to look at all the facets of this. We can get a recommendation from the EAC, but we also have to hear back from Chester Valley and what they can and can't do. You know, when you say don't use feeders, if that's a recommendation, I don't want to kill this deal where we're privileged to have somebody that's willing to work with us. We have to be mindful of that.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we can ask the question. It's not necessarily determinative of what we decide to do, but it's
Right.
It's worth, you know, asking the question. And then again, we have 3 properties that we own. That's all we can control, right? The individual landowners in this township can decide to do whatever they like.
Well, and I think the conversation between Chester Valley, like the feeder, no pun intended, for what the questions we address or decisions we make will be after the conversation between EAC and Chester Valley, where like maybe Chester Valley will convince the EAC that baiting does make sense for it to be effective, or vice versa. You know, Chester Valley might be convinced, like we may not need to deal with that question answered or not, but I think we only know that after EAC. I think the position we're trying to take is we want to be deferential to the EAC Chester Valley decision making.
Yeah, I think having EAC meet with them is good. I got this sense from the Chester Valley, the gentleman that was in here, that, you know, he made it very clear that this is not hunting, this is deer management. And so I sense that he's probably not going to be interested if they're prevented from doing it their way. You know, that's.
Okay.
Because Bob can't hear you.
It's okay.
My question was, you mentioned when you talked to the commission that they can devise plans.
Yeah.
Is there a way that they could propose something for our township to work with Chester Valley to try and give them kind of a startup in where they might be able to implement this?
So they are not going to develop a municipal-wide plan for
Okay.
us. What they do is they work with individual landowners on a plan for a piece of property. We would be an individual landowner with 3 potential pieces of property. So we would develop the deer management plan for those properties. They do that as part of their program to incentivize community hunting. They have a very, very good program where there's a gun range in Limerick. They go out, they make sure the hunters are certified, are capable with firearms. They have a whole app program. So it's a very, very well-run program. But like I said, if we can't open up the park to volleyball, we can't open up the park to hunting, recreational hunting right now. But what I need to find out is whether we could get that aspect of the service from them without committing in stone to open up our properties to community hunting, because I don't know that we know the answer to that right now. Right? So
And
that's a conversation I need to have with them.
Chester Valley is not using guns. They're
No.
using bows and arrows.
Yes.
So I think people need to hear that pretty clearly also. It's a more humane way of doing things for many people. So, okay, I just wanted to be clear about my understanding. Thank you.
So I'm gonna invite Chester Valley Deer Management Association to attend an EAC meeting, and that's.
Well, what I would also like is for you to have the conversation with Mike understand what the agreement would look like. We need to get the COI from Chester Valley Deer Group. I'm butchering everyone's name today. And then get confirmation from our insurer. I just want to have that information, right? That our premiums would not change, our coverage would not change, even if we don't do this for a year. I just want to have that piece of information filed away, because otherwise we're spending a lot of time talking about something that we shouldn't be spending time on.
Yep.
All right. Do I need to ask if anyone has anything else, or can I just?
Just presume that no one has anything.
I'm going to presume that no one has anything else. Meeting is adjourned.